Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Empowered to Live. I am your host, Andrea Rose Butler of the Becoming Woman's Network. I'm so glad that you were able to join me for another evening and another episode of our program on tonight. And I'm just so grateful for all of you that come out week after week to come and to share with me and to be there with me each week. And so I do appreciate all of you that joining, whether you're watching me live on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, or you're catching the replay on either one of those platforms. Again, thank you and good evening. And as I shared last week, we are starting a new series today. And that new series is talking about getting your financial house in order. And as I was cleaning today, I was thinking about, you know, when we think about getting our house in order, I think about, how, you rearrange stuff, you put away things that maybe have been hanging around, like we moved in, our stuff came, and we've had so many things going on, so I still had things that I hadn't unpacked yet that were sitting here and that were taking up space. And this morning, when I got up, I came here and said, you know what, today's the day for me to go ahead and tackle this corner, because it's been driving me crazy. Every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, I need to fix that. I need to fix that. I need to fix that. And so today I was like, today's the day. Guys know I have this saying, it's not one day, but today. And so I made it to my day today and went ahead and clear out the corner. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about the series that we're starting about getting our financial house in order. And for many of us, our financial house may have looked like the corner of my room that had, bags and stuff. And I was like, I don't know what's in here. I had unpacked them from one thing and then I put them in the corner. And I've been looking at them. I've gone through some stuff and then I put them back, and so today I was like, today needs to be the day that I need to unpack what's here, discover what's useful to me, and then what is, something that I brought with me that I probably should have thrown away before I came, but I dragged it with me anyway, and it's here. And then today I ended up throwing it away. Uh, and as I was thinking about that, it reminded me too about our financial, getting our house in order. And so today we're talking about, where do we begin? Like, where do we begin in getting our house in order? And one of the things that, my original topic was your money story, like your origin story of where your financial mindset came from. So last week we talking about, identifying your money mindset, what that was all about, and how do we work on some ways to change our money mindset, the way we think about money. But for a lot of us, our money story is so deep rooted on the inside of us that it is going to take some unpacking to get to what originally is our story and how do we begin it, that story. And so every as an author, and for, even as not even so much, not an author, maybe you're a reader, and sometimes you have the prologue in a book, and that prologue kind of gives you kind of the backstory of how did they get from here to the beginning of the story. And so our money story, to me, is that prologue, is that how did I get to where I am today? I didn't just wake up and I'm in chapter 1 or chapter 59 or chapter 60 or however old you are. That story had a beginning. There was a place before the start of your story that brought you to the place where you are today. And so that's when we talk about your money story. What's that all about? Where did it come from? What's the root cause of us being the way we are, the way we think and feel, our attitudes about money? As I shared last week, we have those things, but it's like, where did they come from? Where, who spoke those into you? And so we're going to talk about that today. So, like, the root of your story. So the money story basically is this story that you tell yourself about money. Whether again, it's your thoughts, your feelings, your attitudes, your experiences with money, and a lot of these are subconscious. We're not even aware that, but you have a money story, you know, and so we don't always recognize that we have a story that we are telling ourselves, that that we speak out over ourselves and over our lives, and in the things we say and how we attack or go about dealing with our finances. And so that's basically in a nutshell what that money story is all about. So it's our thoughts, feelings, attitudes, our experiences, and a lot of these things are mostly subconscious because they're in us. We've always done it, and maybe so where do they come from? So we think about a lot of my research says they basically came from primarily your caregivers. So your parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, those people that you heard sitting around the table. And children are sponges. They hear stuff, and you hear kids parroting stuff back, and you're like, where did they get that from? They got it from you. They got it from conversations. They may have gotten it from TV. They're hearing and they're absorbing these things, especially in those formative years where they're developing. And so they're hearing, all the stuff that we say around, and they get it in the atmosphere. And so that's where it comes from primarily, is for our family. Friends, maybe they go to a friend's house and the friend's parents are talking about money, and and maybe they've said some stuff, and your child internalized, or you internalize that what they said. For our millennials, Gen Z, Gen Xers, the Gen Zs, and soon to be Generation Beta, social media is a big thing. So they're seeing these things on social media. We see things on social media, and we compare our lives to what we see on TV. So maybe you may had a good origin story, but now as you've gotten older, life has taken you on a detour, and you see things on social media, and you are like, well, how did they get that? Well, how did they, what are they doing? What's happening with that? What's happening with, and so we see those things, and we say to ourselves, I want to be like that. And then we decide, and we sometimes we fight against maybe the money story that we had, and then it butts up against the things and the lifestyle that we see presently that may not be quite where we want to be. And so we want to deal with that. And so um, culture culture is a big part of um, our money story. I was sharing with I had an interview yesterday, what Tuesday, one of these days, this week. I had an interview that'll be airing soon. I'll let y'all know when that happens. And one of the things we were talking about was how, especially people of color, when we came out of slavery, we didn't have anything. And so they told us, get stuff on credit. You want to look good. You want to do this. And we became consumers. And a lot of times we tend to consume and we don't save. We want to look good, whether or not we have good or not. We'll spend our money and we just consume. And so therefore we can break out of the cycle of poverty because we're consumers. We just spend, we spend, we overspend and overextend ourselves. And that's a cultural thing that I see a lot, that, especially among our young people, that it's gotten so out of control. And so we have to break that cycle as well. Religion is another thing that also shapes it. I shared last week, and even I was thinking about that today, where we said the love of money is the root of all evil. And no, it's when we take money and so we take that out of context and we create our own pretext around that scripture. And, we tell you, when you study the scriptures, you got to go to what was before, what was after, and then formulate, and then who the audience was, and all those different things of how we go ahead and look at the scriptures. And so we take that out of context, and we say, the love of money is the root of evil. Money, yes, loving money. And I shared this, I think, last week. When we take money to the place where it becomes our God, and we usurp the God himself with a capital G, and we make money our Lord, and we will do whatever it takes to get that money, then yes, it can be evil, because we look at it, and that may be a part of our money story as well. So we heard this, and so we are fearful about being successful, because we're told that if you have money, then you're evil, then you're sinning because you have. And then others may say, well, I don't have, and so therefore I'm going to get it however I need to get it, whether I have to steal, kill, whatever. And so again, it goes beyond just, needing money to live. It goes into that point where we have taken money to a whole nother level. And that's where, so religion, as well, gender. If you looked, I think it was 1974, somewhere around there, late 70s, early 80s, before women even had access to money. They couldn't open a bank account unless they were married, or their father signed for it, or another male. They couldn't have credit. They couldn't have any of those things. And so a lot of times those were also hindrances as well to having money. Generation. So, the older generations, maybe those who lived through the Great Depression, or other things where where they came from, they've lived through wars and different things like that, or even where they come from culturally and generationally. That may be a thing as well. And so all of those things are factors in how we see, and how we wrote our money story, and the narrative that we tell ourselves. So, what are some of the stories that we tell ourselves? Some of the stories we tell, that money is power. Um, I I've heard this one a lot. Money doesn't grow on trees. I remember when my kids were young, and I was laughing to myself, and I was like, "Oh, I gave them a bad money story." They would go, "Can I have this?" And I was like, "When you get a job." Uh, and so, that's the money story. They would say, "Can I have this?" And finances were tough. I shared my story last week. Finances were rough when they were younger, in those formative years, and so when they got a little bit older, they was like, "Oh, can I get this? Can I have that?" And I'm like, "When you get a job, you can get that," because it was out of my financial reach at the time to get that. Kim on stage does this a lot. He was just like, "You got whatever McDonald's money." You say, "Can I get this? You have that money." So fill in the blank of you got money for that. Um, Another one is money can't buy happiness. So people may say that you can't get happiness from money, and it doesn't. Money can't buy happiness, because we know a lot of rich people that are unhappy. So it doesn't buy happiness, but it solves a lot of problems. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at that as well. Um, so again, when you have your own money, you can buy whatever. When you get a job, you can do whatever. So there's so many different stuff that the origins of our money. Money was tight. You can't afford to buy stuff, and so parents having arguments about money. The tension in the home that the children or you may have experienced wrote your story as well. So there was so many different aspects of that. So how does your money story affect you? So it affects you in the way that you save, the way you spend, the way you invest. Sometimes it affects our job choices. We may have chosen a job. As I was sharing this on the interview, sometimes we choose jobs or careers based on the fact that they made a lot of money. It's not necessarily what you want. It's not what your purpose is. It's not where your giftings are. But you may have told yourself, "I'll never be broke. I'll never be, I'll never be poor. I'll never be in this place again where I'm sure that, maybe your lights were cut off as a child, Maybe you end up homeless as a child, and you had to live with family members, or maybe lived in your car, or you were on social benefits, or any of those things. And so that also wrote a part of your story. And so you may chose a job, whether you became a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, sometimes even a criminal, because of the fact that you said that you will never be in this place or position again. And so you've chosen things that not necessarily are good. Even how we manage our time, our free time. You may have a job and you may be making good money, but then you have your side hustles, and so you burn yourself out, making sure that you always have it. Even if you have money in the bank, it's never enough. And we see this with the wealthy, that they have money and still want more and want more. And it's like a hunger that is never filled. And so when we look at, this money story, it's interesting to me about how it affects so many aspects of our lives that we aren't even aware of, how we do things. I think for me that I'm a saver. I like to save money, and I've done that for a long time. And I always think consciously, about, I'll go to a store and I'll put stuff in my cart. I'll walk around the entire store. My kids will tell you, they laugh at me. I'll walk around the store with it, and I'm like, and I taught myself out of stuff. And that's the thing we do. We don't always take care of ourselves. We'll buy for somebody else. I see myself doing that. My kids were like, "Can I have that?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." Then when it comes to me, I'm like, "No," because I feel like I don't need or want, or another money story that I don't deserve good things, and so I won't buy it for myself, but I will buy it for my kids. I'll buy it for my mom. She'll look at something, whatever, and I go buy it, and but I won't do the same for myself. I'll look at it and I'm like, that's $30. I'm not spending $30. So my kids ask me, like, oh, sure, let's go ahead and get it. Really? But again, part of our money story, we may think we don't deserve to have this. Maybe, maybe that's something you were told, that you don't deserve to have XYZ. And so you grow up with, I will take care of everybody else, but I won't take care of myself. I won't buy myself the things that I want, not necessarily that I need, but the things that I want, because of the fact that you may have been told you don't deserve that. And again, a part of that money story. And so we're going to talk about in the coming weeks, how do we rewrite our money story? How do we rewrite it? How do we, flip the narrative that we tell ourselves? And I've shared before that as a man thinks, and come from the word of God, as the man thinks, so he is. So what are you telling yourself? And so that's that story that repeats over and over again, that we've got to have a new script. We've got to, throw the old script out, throw that story out. When I'm writing, sometimes I have versions of it, and it's never done. So when I get down and I'm writing, a lot of times I will change a whole lot of stuff in what I'm writing, and they will sometimes look totally different than how I started out. The title may change and all these different things. Like even today, I've had, this show schedule, and I've had this title for a few weeks. And here I get to tonight, I'm like, do I really want that? And I changed it. And so the same way that I was able to look and change this is the same way we can look at our lives, and we can change the story that we tell ourselves. But we first have to recognize that we have a money story, because a lot of us may not even know that we do. We don't know why we do what we do. So we're going to take a look at that. And I love this quote from Coco Chanel. She says, there are people who have money and people who are rich. And I thought that was interesting because, she says there are people who have money and there are people who are rich. And like, what is the difference? And this is I think when you have money, money has you. But then when you're rich, you can do without. And because you realize the value of life. And I think that's the difference in what makes us rich versus what makes us wealthy, or just having money. Or we need to have the life I was scolded the other day um, about, we decided that this lifestyle, we're gonna make some changes, and I find myself going making this some of my old patterns. I'm a loner by nature. I like people, but in small spurts. Um, and so I've lived alone in my mind for a long time, and so so I'm working on getting out of that and being more active in joining groups and activities and stuff. There's so much to do here in Mexico. There's so many different groups and things like that they're doing, and they're planning activities. And my goal is to have something as well for Christian women, because a lot of times some of these get-togethers or meetups that they have, there are things involved that not necessarily um, would be great to be in that environment and in that space. When I look at some of what's going on, there's some things that are good. A lot of big conflicts with what I want to do. Like Wednesday night and tonight, there are things going on. But I have this, and then Wednesday night we have Bible study, and they're at the same time. So really difficult to get the two together. But we have to look at how do we now rewrite our script? How do we get out of the place that we're in? So again, when we're talking about that in the coming weeks, we're going to talk about, again, rewriting our story. One of the subjects we talk about is like, is your bag secure? How do you, again, break that story and learning about how to invest and save and different things like that. We're going to one section is about going beyond the bag. So once you've got your bag secure, how then do you live beyond that savings? So once you've done what the financial people have said, how do you move beyond that place? And then so a great topics that are coming up. And so next week we were talking about your money mindset, scarcity versus abundance, and how do we know the difference between the two. And so stay tuned for that. And again, I just want to appreciate all of you for joining me on this evening. You don't have to be here, but I appreciate you that you are. So leave me a comment. We're having a guest on the show. Hopefully she's gonna be doing two segments during the latter half of this month, and hopefully I'll have one other presenter for April. This series will run into the early part of April, getting you ready for tax season. There's so many things that you can do to prepare yourself, about how do we, again, break that mindset. And we can't say that I can't save. I shared last week, when I was making $6.30 an hour at 37 hours, and then $7 at 20 hours when my hours got cut, and they gave us a raise, but they took away our hours. And I was still able to save, money, and I've still kept that habit. I was all through, no matter what my financial situation was, I have automatic savings. That's something that I've always done. Start small. Whether it's putting $1 or $2 a paycheck away, and then increase it as your funds increase. You can increase that savings. Make sure that you're tithing as well, because not tithing is a thing that we say I can't afford to tithe. Yes, you can't afford not to. So make sure that you're tithing, that you're giving, and that you're saving as well. And I want to also share, some of the secrets that I've had, that I've used, and that I've taught my kids and other people in my life. And they're like, "How are you able to do that? How are you doing that? How are you doing that? We make the same amount of money, but you do this, and you're able to do that." So I'm going to share some of those tips some of the things that I've done over the years that has helped me to travel, to do just even this lifestyle of being able to leave everything behind, not necessarily having a secure income right now, and be able to come and not have worries. I shared last week when I left Virginia, even before we left, I didn't have debt anything but my house. as a payment that was continuous as far as other utilities and so forth. But there is a way to plan that you can plan to have the life that you deserve. Not that or the life that you were looking for. Um, and so we were not created to just grind. And as we see, what's happening right now with, government jobs are not secure anymore. That I was looking at, I think it's Forbes reports that in the last month, the layoff or unemployment, 254%. Can you imagine? Of people being unemployed at this moment, and it's only going to get worse. And so, how do we get our house in order, our financial house in order, if it's not there already, so that when, if this happens, that you're prepared, and you're able to not only survive, but to thrive as well. So, again, that was my, it's about us ministers. We have closing and we have our first and second closing. So, this is hopefully my final closing, that I appreciate you all joining me tonight, and I hope to see you all next week for another episode of Empowered to Live. Remember that we have everything that we need to live this live and to live godly. Have a great night. Thank you. Bye bye.